Are we good?
We think it was the YouTube streaming for some reason.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Aaron, can you please do a roll call?
Yes. Councilmember Reardon.
Here.
Councilmember Cirque. Mayor Gunselman.
Here.
Councilmember Swift. And Councilmember Feist.
Here. Can you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Going to open the public forum. At this time, the public is permitted to address the City Council on items not appearing on the agenda. Comments may not exceed 5 minutes. In accordance with state law, however, no action or discussion may take place on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. The City Council may respond to statements made or questions asked, or may request staff to report back at a future meeting on the matter. Would anyone care to address the council on an item not on the agenda? Hearing nobody, we're going to move on, and we're going to skip Tom's report and go straight to the presentations. So the first presentation is an introduction of the Oversight Committee.
How about now? Good evening. Martin Ryan with the Oversight Committee, the Transactions and Use Tax. We're here tonight to introduce the members of the committee that are going to be serving as the oversight. I want to thank the council, first of all, for having the foresight to consider an oversight committee for this project. It's hard to get anything passed anymore, let alone things with money attached to it. So it was critically important that the public has confidence in the work, not only of this council, but of the oversight committee as well. And in going through the process and going through the applications, we have some really great people with a lot of varied experience on this committee. They're going to bring value to it and value to this whole process. And so I'd like to introduce them at this point, have them come up and tell you a little bit about themselves, because you may not know. We're going to start with Rich Murphy.
A little shorter than Martin. Rich Murphy, as Martin said, born and raised in Jackson, moved over here in Sutter Creek in '92. I've been in construction pretty much all my adult life. My wife and I also have a shop down here in town. So this use tax is, it's important to us. In case, a customer says, hey, where's your tax going? And so it's important to us. I think it's a good thing overall. I'm thrilled to be on the oversight committee. I've told use me as much as you can. If you have questions about construction, if I can help in any way, that's what I'm here for, more than just oversight. Because I just love to see our community flourish. So thank you very much. I probably should mention I do have 3 adult children, 2 that live locally, 1 that lives out of town. And then, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich.
The next member should be familiar to you, Sandy Spellisy.
Hi there. I'm the newbie on the committee. I've been in Sutter Creek full-time for about 3 years. I worked in and around local government for most of my career, although I'm happily retired now. My most recent gig was I was interim city manager here in Sutter Creek for about 9 months. Good job, Sandy.
Wendy Mathis.
My name is Wendy Mathis, and my husband and I are both local Sutter Creek kids that now have kids of our own here in town. And my background, I work at the Community Foundation, but I have a nonprofit background. And I would say my strength with this group would probably be communications and public relations and marketing. So if I can be of service to the community in that way, I'm really happy to.
Not a stranger, Al Beers.
Hi, Al Beer, Sutter Creek, born in Sutter Creek, raised in Jackson. Came back in 1998. When the idea of Proposition P came up, I asked to be on a committee and worked on that committee. And when the proposition passed, I asked to be on the oversight committee because I wanted to go back to the people that I talked to and promised how we would spend that money, or at least recommend spending that money. So that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
And I'm Martin Ryan. I was raised in Jackson, went to Jackson High School, moved over to Sutter Creek in 2007 and have not missed a lick. It's a tremendous community. And after 46 years in law enforcement, I was able to retire and bring a little of that experience at executive level in law enforcement with budgets and things like that to the group. Like I said, they're a phenomenal group of talented people. I'm just honored to be able to be part of them. I was out of the room, I think, when they told me I was going to be the chair. Actually, they were very kind to do that, and I'm very proud of that as well. So we are here for you. We are here to provide a service to you as well as to the community that expects their tax dollars to be spent effectively and wisely. And so that's our role and our responsibility, and we'll certainly do that. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Martin, do you,
Yes, Tom.
not to put you on the spot, do you mind summarizing the meeting in the last hour, like the motion?
Sure. I was here. So we went over a number of different things, and a lot of it was a prioritization of funding, locating funding, matching funds, how that process is going to look like, how the flow of money is going to come in with regards to what the state is going to have available and when it's going to be available. And we can tell by the early reports that it's going to trickle in a little bit at first. And so selecting projects that are going to have an impact are going to be a subject of discussion as we go through that process. Matching grants was brought up as well as a way of expanding the pool of monies that we have. And I think that the hard infrastructure was the main focus of where we think that this should go. I think that's what the community expects with the roads and some other things that have come up as a topic and the main topics. And so that's what we're going to be looking at, that you bring to us for approval and for advice. So we thank you very much for that. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Martin.
Thanks, Martin.
We look forward to working with you guys. It was important to all of us that that be a part of this process. Next, we're going to have,
Thank you very much for doing this and being here tonight.
next, we're going to have Amy give a presentation on ACRA. Amy Klingen.
Good evening. I'm Amy Klingen from the Amador County Recreation Agency. I'm the Director of Recreation at ACRA. Thank you for allowing me to come here to introduce myself and share with you some of the exciting things ACRA is doing in our community and our plans for the future. ACRA was established over 20 years ago. Since then, we've worked tirelessly to maintain and improve county parks, develop hiking and trail areas, manage pools, host community events, and provide countless recreational activities, classes, and learning experiences for Amador County residents. For those who may not be familiar, ACRA operates in a unique way that sets us apart from other parks and recreation agencies in California. While most parks and rec departments are run by individual cities or counties, ACRA is organized as a JPA, or Joint Powers of Authority. This means ACRA is not managed by the county or an individual city. Instead, we're overseen by a board of directors representing our members, which include the cities of Amador City, Jackson, Plymouth, Sutter Creek, and the unincorporated areas of the county. These member entities contribute an annual fee that help fund ACRA's operations. These fees cover the cost of a small staff that maintains park and recreation recreation areas, staff community events like the 49er Fun Run, operate the Sutter Creek Pool in the summer, and offer a wide range of classes and activities such as sign language, painting, kickboxing, pickleball, etc. In Sutter Creek, we have been hosting a cooking class once a month at the historic grammar school. It's been very popular and sold out every time. We manage the pool and we staff its lifeguards. This season, we're going to teach over 100 kids to learn how to swim. So this year, we've also in Sutter Creek offered watercolor painting, sign language, a basketball league, and as well, we've been running our after-school program at Sutter Creek Elementary. So it's important to note that ACRA has not raised membership fees in 10 years. In these challenging financial times, when every agency and organization is feeling the pressure, we're not asking for more funding. We're simply requesting your continued support at the same cost, despite the rising cost of everything else. This will allow us to demonstrate just how valuable ACRA is to our community. As a small agency with limited resources and staff, ACRA has faced its challenges. Our reputation in the community hasn't always been as strong as we'd like it to be. But we're committed to turning that around by offering more programs that meet the specific needs of our residents, including improved youth and teen programs. We're dedicated to fulfilling the needs of Amador County, perhaps now more than ever before. Some people ask, what does ACRA do in our city? The truth is, we aim to be active and offer programs throughout all of Amador County, but we also want you to know that no matter where a program is held, we draw participants from all over the county. For example, when we have our cooking class in Sutter Creek, people from all parts of the county come to enjoy a fun evening of learning, socializing, and breaking bread. These opportunities help build community and bring people together, strengthening the bonds that make Amador County such a great place to live. So what's next? First and foremost, we're focused on improving ACRA at every level. With help from the county, we're ensuring that ACRA is financially stable and we're operating with full transparency. We will continue to provide parks for community use, plan events, and offer both adult and youth programs. We also recognize that many people in our community may not be fully aware of the full range of opportunities we offer, which is why our next big priority is marketing. We want every resident in Amador County to know what's happening and to feel encouraged to participate. Recreation and public spaces are vital to a thriving community. When we reflect on what makes a place feel like a home, parks and recreation play a foundational role. These spaces support both physical and mental health, help strengthen social bonds, and are key to the overall well-being of our community. Recreation especially is a critical part of youth development. It enriches their lives, supports their education, and helps them form healthy social connections, all while deterring negative behaviors. I think we can all agree that recreation and parks are essential to our way of life, and they are what make Amador County a unique and special place to live. With a stronger infrastructure, we're confident that ACRA can grow into the Parks and Recreation Department that Amador County deserves. We live in a beautiful place with amazing people, and we believe that with your support, we can make a significant impact. We ask for your continued commitment to help us grow and help Amador County thrive. Thank you. My son, I forgot that my son is going to pass out a few little handouts just for your information about what ACRA does and the things that are happening this month. Thank you. And if you'd like, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
I don't necessarily have a question right now, Amy, but I did want to just comment that I know it's been some tough times here, and we really appreciate, the work that everyone is doing to pitch in and work together.
Thank you.
Try to accomplish these goals that you've stated, and we certainly support that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I do want to comment that I did view the last city council meeting and saw your suggestion for some sort of letter of commitment among the cities. And so we are developing that, and we'll get that out as soon as possible, probably by email tomorrow. so that we can get a consensus among the cities and make sure that everybody's on board so that you don't feel like you might be left hanging.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to
Go ahead.
emphasize, I've got foot in two camps here with ACRA and with our council. And our biggest, for Sutter Creek, our biggest focus is making sure that we can maintain the pool. That's a major recreation opportunity for all ages, for lap swimmers, for youth. And we would, I think, need the assurance that ACRA is at the stable point where that pool is going to be functional with lessons, lap swim, and recreational swim this summer.
Okay. I think you're going to be very pleased. We do have a full staff. I have it booked throughout the summer. As I said, we have over 100 kids signed up for swim lessons already. And we're starting to sell pool passes. We also have some ideas, and I'm meeting with the committee tomorrow about pool improvements. So I think it's going to be a really successful year. I think people are going to be really pleased with the changes.
And thank you for being here, Amy. How many pools do you manage?
Just one,
Just
Sutter
the
Creek.
Sutter Creek? Okay,
Yes.
so that 100 is all at Sutter, at the
Yes.
Sutter Creek Pool. Wonderful.
Yes.
And is this what you just, your son just handed out? Is this something that you've always done, this monthly calendar like this?
Yes. So I personally have only worked for ACRA for 9 months,
Okay.
and it's been my job to do the calendar. And yes, we do that every month. I send it out to our mailing list at the beginning of every month, and then the Ledger has been nice enough to print it for us for free.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, to just
Mhm.
do your best to get this in front of many eyeballs as you can, because it's really nice.
Thank
Yeah.
you so
And
much.
it seems like you're on the right track, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. So part of our restructuring too, our board has been really helpful and volunteered their time. And one of our board members is a marketing expert, and so we plan on working closely with her in broadening our reach.
Yeah, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
I want to say thanks for stepping in as well. And then I'm so glad to see that the pool be open every day. Love
It'll be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amy, for being here and for stepping in and all of you guys banding
Yeah.
together to make this work. I hope that as you reinvigorate yourself and, show your structure at some point, it would be nice to approach ION to rejoin so we can have,
That is part of the plan. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I myself, as a personal goal, would love to get Ione back. And in fact, I'd love to get the other pools back. And I think once we prove that we're capable of being financially stable and responsible and having our employees show up every day,
Mhm.
I think that that's a possibility.
I think it's all heading in the right direction. And then also, I just wanted to comment, you guys were a big part of the duck race, and that was really helpful to the duck race. But I hope as you're rebuilding and getting back out there, the more events that are already happening that, Accra has a lot of resources. They were a huge help to me to distribute information and everything else. If other groups can work together with you, it'd benefit everybody.
Thank you so much. We have an amazing staff. We've brought on a lot of people in the last couple months as after-school instructors and lifeguards who are local kids that are proving to be really responsible and helping us get out in the community for events like that, because we just need manpower.
I just want to comment on the resiliency, I think, of the staff. I'm going to speak as being on the board, that there's been a lot of personal sacrifices by the current directors, Amy, the other two, to keep ACRA up and running. Resiliency, we lost our general manager, we lost Ione, we lost the funding, and yet these Amy and the other two directors are strongly moving forward to make this work. So I just want to thank you for the sacrifices that you and Diane and Margaret have made to keep this going.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your confidence in us, and we're going to prove you did the right thing.
Last question. You guys do the maintenance of Molly Joyce and Lions Club Park, right?
Correct.
Is that the only two?
So on your little infographic there, it lists the parks that we maintain. Molly Joyce,
Okay.
Pioneer Park, Lions Park, Fiddletown, and River Pines. My co-director, Diane, I don't know if many of you have had the chance to meet her, but she personally maintains all the parks. She's a powerhouse.
Thank you, Amy. Any
Thank you.
questions from the public?
I would just make one comment. I think Lions is Lions. We were talking about the Lions Club. Yeah, you might want to correct that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Amy.
All right, we'll go back to Tom.
All right. Amy didn't mention the best thing is what's that?
That one's supposed to be off.
It should be on. Oh, it's kind of tricky. Gotta shield it. Yeah. Now they're out of sync.
I want paper
One
next.
goes on, the other goes on.
My fault.
Nope. All right.
Yeah.
Is Amy still here? She didn't mention she's also helping with a parade for the 4th of July party.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Too late. It's too late.
yeah, exactly.
Tom really loves this 4th of July thing.
So my main update again has to do with the wastewater disposal situation. So should be letter instead of Ketter. So we sent our letter on April 25th originally to the water board. Again, citing public health concerns about the risk of overflowing our reservoirs. Ione submitted their Title 22 report on May 19th. And I spoke to the regional water board later that day. And they could not commit to a timeline. They said they needed to make sure the Ione application was complete. Again, this was back on May 19th. Later that week, I spoke to Sean Haggerty, who's an environmental attorney at BBK, which has been the law firm that ARSA has used. And between then and now, there've been kind of multiple letters, multiple people. Thank you. Councilmember Feist sent a letter. The Amador County supervisor sent a letter. But again, there's been very little kind of response from the water board. So my plan is to write a couple of additional letters this week, follow up with the water board as well as the Department of Dam Safety. The attorneys in Ione and our attorneys kind of talked today, and they are also crafting a letter kind of highlighting the emergency nature of this. And we have started doing land application of the wastewater, trying to, kind of do what we can to lower the reservoirs. So Bowers is operating currently at 7 days a week. So we are starting to incur overtime for that. Hoskins is up and running, and we're keeping the flow low so that we can do that Monday through Friday right now. And again, we'll make a call a couple more weeks, whether we need to go to 7 days a week there as well. That one's going to be the more expensive one. It requires diesel, requires more monitoring than Bowers does. And so again, just to highlight that this Henderson repair is at risk. We really thought we needed to start disposal June 1st. And whether we can do it next year or not, it's really going to depend on whether the golf course opens up at some point this summer, so that we can lower the reservoir. If the reservoir fills up, we can't lower anything this year. It could take two years probably to get it down. Although this is weather dependent, but going with kind of average years. So it's kind of separate from all that. We are talking to the grant writer about resuming the application for next year and trying to find out, say we get an award, but we're not able to start construction, if there's ability to get an extension. So, just kind of understanding kind of what we're getting into. So again, I just wanted to give you guys that update. So it looks like Jim has a question.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but on a hot summer day like this, the golf course used to use close to 1 million gallons of water a day, correct? Yeah.
Wow.
So they are using a well, but they're not using.
They're not getting,
nearly
they're not
enough.
getting 1 million gallon, I know
No.
they're not getting 1 million gallons of
Almost
water.
what, 200,000?
I mean, so,
The waste.
so right now, the only water that's leaving Henderson is going to Hoskins. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, and going to Preston. Yeah.
into Preston, but Preston can only hold so much
So
too.
it's going from Henderson to Preston?
Yeah, I mean, it has to.
Then
Then
Preston-
from Preston, it goes to the tertiary plant, but not currently.
Right, that's why we have it at kind of low flow, because again, the valve at Henderson is unreliable. So if we start to go at high flow, then we have to be spraying kind of 24/7 to keep as much out of Preston as possible.
Mess.
When you,
And the land application was not budgeted for this year at all, right?
Correct. But again, we're trying to manage those costs right now.
Not the extra expense. I mean, we always do land application, but not
7 days.
not as much as we're trying or gonna have to do if we
Right.
don't open that valve to the tertiary.
Yeah, which,
We weren't planning to do it right now, right?
I mean, if we'd been able to have the full Castle Oaks, I don't think we would been rerunning Hoskins, right?
Yeah, we would always run Bowers, but we would not run Hoskins. Hoskins would only be if we need to get rid of extra water. But the problem is that once we get to Preston with the water, there's nowhere for it to go. So we try to limit that as much as we can and hold water back as high as we can for this reason, so that if we have run into problems, then we can open Henderson and go down to Preston. But once we're in Preston, our hands are tied. It's a golf course or nothing, so.
Yeah. Typically, all the water from our plant goes to Bowers.
Yeah.
And they can handle most of it. So it's the water that we stored over the winter that is the issue that would at Henderson that needs to be disposed of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Actually, the fact that we purposefully got so low for the dam repair is saving our tails right now.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
It got started lower than
It did
usual.
start a lot lower than.
Mother
we
Nature had a
normally.
lot to do with that too. We had a, pretty
Yeah.
dry winter.
Yeah, I've been looking at
Relatively dry.
long-term drought forecasts, but there's not that many and they're not that accurate. The other thing I just want to share though, George Lee, the city manager of Ione's been calling me daily. I mean, I think they're just as motivated as we are, which is good. So we're definitely trying to work together. Dan Epperson's also been extremely helpful and kind of all over
Yeah,
this.
they need that. If they're only getting 200,000 gallons a day, they
Yeah, they're-
need that water. That
Yeah.
golf course is going to burn out.
Right, they want to keep it in good shape.
Dry up.
Is the
Does
city
the,
managing the golf course right now? Did they take over the facility?
Yeah,
You
they're
know-
trying to sell it, and again, water's a key part of that, I believe.
Does the water board respond to you with regard to the problem that they're creating?
Again, he's very cordial. He answered the phone, but can't get a date
Commitment.
commitment.
So they don't acknowledge that this is a major problem.
No, I think they acknowledge it. They're just like, the Title 22 report is taking 10 years and then they're looking at it. The regional water board needs the recommendation of the state water board that the Title 22 permit is complete. So that's what they're waiting on. So they're kind of like waiting on each other.
Have we contacted the state water board?
So Ione has, I've been asking like who to talk to there. And again, that's what this joint attorney letter is going to go to both groups.
Cool. And then who's next above the state water board? The governor?
Probably.
I forwarded to
Oh,
you
that's,
two the response to Dana Jorgensen from his
Mhm.
assembly person Hadwick, is that its office?
Right.
And they seemed to, the way I read it, the dam repair, they said was news to them. You know, the Title 22 is a longstanding issue, and this is the first they had heard to the, you know, so there was, to your point, Julia, there's some specific response. It's not, you know, a
but again, that,
auto dial, thanks for your inquiry kind of thing.
sure, but even that was inaccurate. I mean, we had met with them, we told them about the repairs. They also said, oh, the golf course is fine, it's getting the well water, which is not accurate either. So,
The dam repair really is the least of the issues.
right. And again, I think the focus needs to be on public safety and overtopping the reservoir. So if we could switch gears, more happier topics. So Mason's been working extremely hard on our new financial system. It's basically launching now. He's been doing validation and testing. Do you want to make any comments about that? Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know. I'm in meetings from like 9 to 2:30 every single day for like last 2 weeks and then the next 4, just getting it all ready. So yeah, I'm very, very busy getting it all dialed in. So, but I will say it is looking very promising. I'm very excited for it. It's just a matter of making sure that it's all coming over correctly, which is why all the hard work's going in right now. So, yeah, just bear with me, please.
Yeah, so we had to do another data extract to the end of May, and that went in, and so they're doing all this final checking, and then right now we're going to be double entering into the old system and the new system. So that's the core financials, and then July 1st will be the new billing system. So again, everything seems to be going very well, but it's been a lot, and it's mostly fallen on Mason's shoulders.
Does the light at the other end of the tunnel though look bright?
Yeah.
Is it
Oh,
going
yeah.
to ultimately be easier for you when it's installed?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be more streamlined process-wise for not only just me, but my staff. I think the public, for the utility billing aspect of it, will appreciate a more user-friendly experience for auto pay and electronic billing and accessing old bills online digitally. It's just so convenient for everybody, just staff and public. And just I know the big reason why we were even considering and approved this shift to this new system was for reporting purposes. I can't even begin to tell you how many reports are in this system. I'm serious. It's overwhelming. So it's going to take me time and probably test, like, trial and error with you guys to see which one you like the look of the most, just because the vast amount of number of them, but also the customization of them. So yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But during the validation process, I'm running a lot of reports to look at the data like in a visual way, and it's astonishing how much the accessibility they give you to your data compared to what we had.
Yeah.
So that's very optimistic.
In the big picture, Mason, when this is all implemented and, you know, weeks down the road, will this also save you time with your
Mhm.
staff?
Mhm.
As far as being able to input and manage all the data?
Yeah, daily
So-
processes are going to be faster. Part of this process has been reducing our chart of accounts pretty vastly too. So the reports that you guys would get for revenue and expense, our chart of accounts had a lot of dead accounts in it as well that kind of bloated the reports in some ways. And those are getting shrunk. That's what I'm working on right now, is validating the account balances that just got brought over and then shrinking those to get rid of redundancies or just dead accounts that we haven't used in a long time. So once that's through to, like, for my purposes of entering journal entries or for my staff for posting revenues or expenditures, their options to have to scroll through is shortened. I mean, the time, just that adds up over time too. My journals can be imported now, so I can create templates and just import them instead of hand entering them. That saves me hours of time sometimes. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure I'll find discover more reasons why it's faster as time goes on, as I'm using it like day to day. So,
Yeah.
but I'm already seeing it.
The approval flow will not be paper-based. It'll,
Yep.
Claire, you can do it from home. You can just
I
review stuff.
Yeah. So AP approvals can be done digitally. And once the approval process is gone all the way through and everyone's approved it and we hit print checks, they print signed already. So that way we can just stuff them and mail them same day. We're also able to do electronic payments to vendors who are willing to participate. So if we hit print checks and they're in our system as an electronic vendor, we can create a file that we send to our bank and issue payment electronically. So instead of having to rely on the post office, it's just all electronic. It's instantaneous almost, like next day. So
Cool.
a lot of great things. Yeah.
So again, just picking up. So the finance ad hoc, I don't remember if we mentioned it last meeting, but we started meeting. We had an initial meeting looking at police funding and kind of different metrics. That group's going to be meeting monthly. So the next one will be in a couple of weeks. I think I mentioned the Nexus study a few times. We're actually getting really close. There's some tricky stuff in it because a lot of our capital projects are for existing infrastructure, and Nexus fees have to be used for newcomers, for new construction. And so getting the accounting and looking at that, our consultant is very good, I think, but she's helping us kind of work through that to make sure that we can include as much as possible, basically. Dan, Public Works team, been getting the pool ready. We had some parts that needed to be replaced. I think it's looking good at this point. The major miscellaneous sewer collection project that you guys approved is getting ready to start. And then I don't know if you guys have noticed, if you're hanging out on Instagram, but we've been doing a lot more on Facebook and Instagram, as well as getting our listings in order on Yelp and TripAdvisor. So that's coming from the existing marketing budget, and it's something we're trying, and we're looking at kind of the return on investment there to see if it's worthwhile. But love to have comments if you guys see those postings or start interacting with them. And then we did have a resignation on our design review committee for personal health reasons. So I could use a recommendation from you guys for a replacement.
Who resigned? I'm sorry.
So Mike, can never pronounce his last name.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike N.
Okay.
He was an architect. He was very good. And I think the committee's going to miss him. So again, the design review committee, I think architecture background is excellent. Historic preservation, construction. If you guys know anybody with that kind of background, and barring any of those, maybe
Sounds like Rich Murphy.
I was just thinking.
Possibly.
The same thing.
Yeah. So
He asked. We all heard him ask.
Yeah.
What I can do to help.
What else? Yeah, he said, what else can I help with?
I asked this once.
So you guys can talk to me outside the meeting. And we've kind of gotten through all the big event season. So we do have this community pool party coming up. And like I said, Amy last year had the idea of having like a 4th of July children's parade. So she said she's willing to help organize it. I think it's going to be up at the school and kind of end at the pool. The other change this year is it's going to be free instead of trying to charge an entrance fee. Looking at a DJ and looking for probably a nonprofit group that might want to sell food and that kind of thing. But again, trying to see if we can get the pool party going. Got the fair coming up, the Ragtime Festival, Fireman's Ball, and September 20th, Feast of the Foundry. And then kind of the next meeting in June here, it's going to be continuation. Tonight is the audit. And the first look at the budget. The next meeting will be hopefully a deep dive into that kind of draft of the budget. And then we're also working on our 2 labor MOUs. That's it.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions from the council? Any questions?
Well, a quick question, and Amy, before you go, you're talking about you're not talking about a Main Street parade then, are you? No.
A very small, just for kids parade. So we would start at the bottom of Amador High School where the big parking lot is, and then just go up and around school and then.
Yeah. I think that sounds good.
Yeah. Disrupt any traffic.
Yeah, you don't, that's a
It's a great-
big undertaking.
Yeah.
Because since we just did it, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Mason, did we manage to move payroll over to the Tyler?
Yeah.
That was a big hurdle that you're through. Cool.
Not through. We had some issues with getting data out of the current payroll processing company that we work with that was usable for the programmers to use for like rolling it from their software into the new one for validation. It wasn't consistent enough for them to feel confident in putting it in and then running tests on it. So we're delaying it until after when I basically like middle of this month towards the end of the month when the core financials look solid and we're doing operations in there fully with core financials. We're going to be simultaneously doing validation testing and final go live for the utility bills stuff last week of June and then running bills first week of July. Simultaneously, we'll be doing the analysis for payroll and like how our process works now versus what they're able to do. And we can determine where we can find some efficiencies in the new software. And then we will be doing a lot of it by hand, unfortunately. So that will take time. The good news of that though is that Paychex is reliable and it works and it has worked for us for a long time. So it's not like we're losing something and then we can't run payroll. That's not a risk, but the sooner we can get over to their software, the better, because I would like it all to just be in one home base. But yes, that will start working probably in the next couple weeks. Yeah.
Any other questions for Tom and crew? Thanks, guys. We can see you've been very, very busy as always. Approval of minutes from May 19th. Anybody?
I have no comments.
I move to approve the minutes
A second.
from the last meeting.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Consent agenda, we have the FEMA grant status. I don't need to pull it. I just wanted to comment that I was happy to see it.
Yeah.
I've never seen this before. It's very educational. I hope we don't have another giant disaster that requires 4 projects, but thank you
Yeah.
for this, Will.
It was, yeah, it was very educational and Will having worked there, when we talked to Cal OES that manages FEMA, they tell you you're going to get 100% of your money. But Will said they never do that. And if you get the 75% from the feds, the state doesn't pay up. So this is really to close it out. We've been paid and we're not expecting to get any more. So,
Right.
At any point, were we expecting the full 100%?
I mean, they
Like,
kind
we-
of
back in the
tell you
beginning, I
that,
think we
but
were hoping for.
they word it like up to 100%. And he was like, it never happens unless for some reason the feds didn't pay out their percent, then the state might pay some, but you never get 100%.
So we always had this background, like, okay, we're going to have to pay up a little sum.
Yeah, 25%
Yeah.
basically. Yep.
So there wasn't any surprise.
Could you refresh my memory? What was the big project, the armor wall or whatever?
Yeah, that was the wall of the wastewater plant.
Oh, that's
upstream.
okay. Okay. I couldn't remember.
Is there a motion to approve the consent?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. It's audit time.
Yeah, so we have our auditor on Zoom. Mason, I'll let you go ahead and introduce it, and then you can introduce David.
Yeah, so same process as usual for working with Maze. The only difference is in previous years, as mentioned in the staff report, we had a primary partner, Vicky Rodriguez, that we worked with for a while, but there is a limit in the number of years you can have a particular partner before they make you switch to prevent any risk of preferential treatment, I guess. I'm not quite sure what the reasoning. It's a GASB rule, so I think that's the reasoning for it. So I have spoken with David prior to him becoming our primary partner in my first year here. Vicky and I had ran some questions by him too occasionally. So, but now David is our primary partner. So we will be working with David for the foreseeable future. And I mean, I'll just reiterate what I said in my staff report. It's been a breeze working with them. They're very easy to work with, very understanding. They're flexible, especially with my crazy schedule that's been going on. So yeah, it was not a big deal. Just some planning and timing issues when it came to setting up the new system and vacations and just stuff like that. So, but again, very flexible, very easy to work with. And yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, David, you want to pick it up?
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen.
And you're muted.
Can you hear me now? I'm not showing as being muted.
Yeah, we're not here.
We can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Are you able to hear yourself? For some reason, you're not muted, but you're not coming through.
Strange. 1 second.
Yep. And David could, David
I
Ritchie,
can-
can you?
I
just
can
speak
hear
so we can make sure
David.
that that's working.
Yeah, I can hear David as well. Or can you hear me? No,
Okay, so they're not getting audio.
they're not getting
Um,
audio from
Let me tell them in
Zoom.
the chat.
Audio should have anything to do with it. See something.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
there we go.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Not sure what happened there. Let
I'm
me,
gonna mute. I'm gonna
okay.
mute.
I'm gonna share my screen here.
Yep.
So you guys see that? Perfect, great. Well, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is David Alvey. I'm a CPA and audit partner with Mason Associates. And like Mason said, under auditing rules, you can't have the primary auditor or the lead audit partner for no more than 6 years. So Vic got rotated out, so I got rotated in. You're allowed to stay at the same firm, you just can't have the lead partner just need a 1-year cooling off period. So we have for you today the basic financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2024. And the audit is required by auditing standards, or actually government code requires it, but we are the city's independent external auditor, and we conducted the audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States. So getting into kind of like the weeds just a little bit, in terms of audit process, we have 2 separate phases. We have an interim phase and a final phase. The interim phase, we are purely looking at checks and balances and internal controls. So during that phase, we look at cash receipts. We look at the disbursements. We look at payroll testing. We look at journal entries. So for example, for disbursements, if we find payments that are not following the city's purchasing policy, that's a breakdown in internal controls. And it doesn't matter if it's a $100 payment or $100,000 payment. If it's not following the controls built in, that's a breakdown. And that changes the way we think of the risk assessment of the city. So once we get an idea of the checks and balances, we turn that part of our brain off, and now we come back at final and we're looking at the balances. Okay, so based on how we think the controls work, how much of that balance of cash do we need to test? How much of that balance of expense do we need to test? And that's all based on inherently how risky the area is and what the controls around it are. And then at final is when we're also looking at creating the financial reports that you have today. So jumping into the basic financial statements themselves, the major components of the basic financial statements or report you have are the audit opinion. So that's technically the only piece of this document that my firm owns, and that's page 1. The management discussion and analysis, the MD&A, that's written by management. Now that's one thing, is it's the executive summary of what happened during the year. Why did revenue go up? Why did things change? And I highly recommend, if there's nothing else out of the report that you read, look at that MD&A, because it'll tell you why things changed. After the MD&A, you have the required financial statements, your entity-wide, your fund level, your proprietary funds, and your fiduciary funds. And then you have all the footnote disclosures about what gives a little bit more depth to those numbers in the financial statements. And then you have the required supplementary information. That would be all of your pension and your other post-employment trend information for the last 10 years. And then lastly, the supplementary information. And that's the breakout of all those non-major funds and the fiduciary funds. So the audit results, and the bottom line is that we did the audit. We issued an unmodified opinion, and that's a clean opinion, and that's the highest level of assurance that a CPA firm can give an entity. So congratulations, you passed your audit. Looking at the management discussion analysis, like I said, it's prepared by city management. It talks about overview of the activities and the financial performance, and it should be read in conjunction with the statements and the footnotes. So jumping into the actual statements themselves, like I said, you have an entity-wide statement and the fund level statement. At the fund level, it's really just an economic resource method of looking out. So everything is due within a year. So you see at the fund level, you don't have your long-term assets, you don't have your long-term liabilities, and each fund or each bucket of money has a fund balance. At the entity-wide, and that's more of a kind of a proprietary or business type look at the city, that's where you actually have your long-term assets in there and your long-term liabilities. And then the equity in the entity-wide statements is the net position, the whole net position of the city. So some financial highlights in the general fund. Your unrestricted fund balance, again, that's at the fund level, was 1.4 million. That was 101,000 decrease from last year. And that decrease has to do with a lot of transfers out for gas tax, streets and sidewalk fund, and the cemetery fund and community center grant fund. Your tax revenues was 2 million. That's a 187,000 increase from last year. Compared to the budget, your revenues were over budget by 142, and your expenditures were over budget by 41,000. So still looking at the highlights of the general, or this is of all the governmental funds. So your total, including the general fund, total fund balance was 2 million. Restricted, and that's made up of 2 items. Restricted, which is 1 million, unrestricted, which is 1 million. And then the net change from prior years, a small increase of 50,000. So not a big change from last year. So pretty much the same look at that. So at the citywide or the entity-wide, you'll see that your total assets were 25.1 million. Your deferred outflow, so that has to do with your pension and your other post-employment benefits, was 4 million, is equal to your liabilities of 5.9 million, your deferred inflows of 147,000, and that net position of 23 million. And Mason and Tom both want me just to speak a little bit on GASB 68 and CalPERS and the pension. And this is one that's affecting all cities across the United States, actually. But we really are across the state, but we're really at the mercy of CalPERS and the market of what they are projecting and what they're actually receiving in terms of funding and their target rate of return. So this chart is really interesting because when we're figuring out the net pension liability, we look at it in there's two pieces to it. You have the total pension liability. So the actuaries calculate what the cost of that benefit will be, minus how much money we put aside for that benefit. That's the fiduciary net position. And then the net is the net pension liability. And that fiduciary net position is the one that's changing so much. And you can see, because we're always a couple years behind, the valuation date, June 2022, and then the measurement date of June 2023. So you can see on this chart, we're kind of riding that low term where we were nowhere close to hitting the target return rate of 6.8. And it's really strange when you look at your June 30, 2023 financials compared to the 2024, because in the 23, you're riding the wave of that huge gains from 2021, and you actually have negative expenses. So that all got reversed back as we're swinging the pendulum back for 24. So it's, again, nothing, it's not a cash movement. It's not an outflow of money. It's an accounting treatment that we have to do to follow the Government Accounting Standards Board's pronouncement number 68. So of your net position of the entity-wide, you're broken out into three categories. You have your net investment in capital assets. That's basically just your capital assets. You have of 81%. You're restricted of 2%, and you're unrestricted with 17%. Looking at that net position over a year, so from current year to last year, we can see that it increased $1 million because of capital asset additions for this year. It increased, the restricted increased a little bit, 116,000, and the unrestricted dropped by 1.7 million. And so total change of 670,000. So overall highlights, the capital assets increased by 568K. That was a lot of that had to do with the Bryson Park upgrades and the Old Strike Court and Eureka Road repairs and other streets improvements. Like I said, some transfers out from the general fund to those capital improvement funds, those gas funds and streets and roads. ARSA JPA, the city forgave the debt of 450,000. You see that in the debt footnote, that reduction. And then the city will be the successor of that organization once they dissolve and they give all the assets to the city. So the memorandum on internal controls and required communication. So this is my communication to this governing body of things that I found during the audit. And they can be categorized into three things. And this is also known as the management letter. Some firms call it different things. So the first is material weakness. That means something material can flow through the internal controls and not get caught. We have nothing to report there. The second is significant deficiency. That something significant can flow through and not get caught. And we do just have a comment just at the closing, with Mason working on the ERP system and other things, we had quite a few of adjustments. I think we had almost 18 post-close adjustments. And so we just wanted to comment on that. And then the others is just other matters, upcoming GASBs, and that's the only thing that we have in that other section. Lastly, the required communication. Auditing standards require that I tell this governing the city council that we found no unusual items lacking authoritative or backup. We didn't have any issues with your accounting estimates. So as accountants, we have to use estimates. It could be useful life for depreciable assets. It could be fair market value of investments. Technically, even the assumptions in the pension and the other post-employment benefit actual reports have to be accepted by management. So we had no issues there. We had no difficulties during the audit, no disagreements with management. And we don't think management was advised by another audit firm just in case they didn't like our opinion, which doesn't matter because we gave an unmodified opinion anyway. And at the very end of our audit, we have a management representation letter that's signed by management that said that they've given us everything in full faith and they accept that the financials are theirs. And we're just an independent party looking in and making sure that, in my firm's opinion, that those financials are accurate. And with that, I just want to thank Mason and Tom for all their help and open it to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mason. Congratulations, Mason and team.
Thank you. I just wanted to say one thing to David. Again, I know I've said it before, David, but thanks for being flexible with me. I know I've been crazy busy.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about just the ERP system and like getting it implemented and how much work it is. So I appreciate your kind words and your flexibility. I really do appreciate it.
No, and that's truly a testament to be able to do that as such a sparse staff that you have there to get that done and get an audit done and get a clean audit opinion. So I mean, this report is seen only once a year at these city council members, but really truly it's a testament of a full year's worth of good accounting practices and hard. And I appreciate your help on that.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you, David. One other comment, just to remind the council, like the total assets, the 21 million number, that includes land and buildings. And again, sometimes that number gets out in the press. That's not cash we have in the bank. So just don't want any confusion on that.
So I had a question, if I could please, just on the pension liability. So just FYI, it's on page 50 of 73. It says something like the city reported a net pension liability for these various plans as follows, and it talks about the city safety plan, miscellaneous, et cetera. And then it comes up with a total number of 4.7 million bucks or something like that. So I had a couple of questions about that. Does that mean that as of today or the date of this audit, all the pensions that we owe equal 4.7 million? And that's the first part of that question. And the second part is, because the next thing, it sounded like it says that we're in okay shape to be able to afford that and pay for it. So that's what I'm wondering. How big is our ultimate liability, and are we going to be able to afford it?
So the net pension liability, like I said, is the actuaries look at all the past and current promises for employees, what those are going to cost in terms of pension benefits. And then they look at how much that fiduciary, how much money they have set aside to pay for that. And the net is that 4.7 million. And going forward, all you pay is just your normal payments, but that amount will fluctuate based on, as people unfortunately pass away and as people come into pension, that number will constantly change. So think of it basically, if the city went bankrupt on June 30, that would be a liability that you would have to set aside to pay for future and current benefits. And
that's helpful.
The interesting thing about that is it's like Mason and I were speaking about, is it's so volatile based on the return of assets and the rate of return. And over the past 3-4 years, the markets have been going crazy. And it'll be another couple of years for things to level out, I think. And a really good barometer to kind of look at that is page 68 of 105 of your packet. Page 50, if you go for my page numbering, which is in the bottom of it, but it shows what a 1% increase and a 1% decrease of that rate of return would do, broken out by the plans, the safety and the miscellaneous.
Yeah,
but
that was helpful.
Yeah, you can see that it's like $1 million in each plan, so 2 million in total, just from a 1% change.
Right.
So that shows the volatility of that.
Does the fact that some of the employees are on the PEPRA and some are on the Classic still, over time, when those on the Classic plan are no longer on a liability, does that put us in a better position? Is that why they went to the PEPRA?
That is exactly why they did that, they saw this coming and they said that this is not sustainable and they needed to do something about it. Yep.
Thank you.
I had a question. I can't read it. With regard to the increase of gross capital assets by $883,788. What is that?
Let's see. So
a lot of that was streets and roads, he said.
Thank you. Yes.
That all fall into that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does the acquisition of that, the Oro Madre land?
I think that was in the following year. This is the year before.
That was the year
So
before.
yeah. So when we were going through this process, I had to figure out when close of escrow was on that, and it actually fell in July.
Okay.
So it does not fall. It's actually going to be in a few months. It'll be in this audit because the land was in our name at that time.
Oh, okay.
So the land we acquired is not in this one yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
what's
when
that
we-
valued at?
A big paving project is a capital, goes into the capital.
For sure.
Account.
Like a new road,
Okay.
like a repaving a road
Right.
and, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that has to depreciate.
I had one question just for clarification that's on page 28. The very top talks about net positions representing the difference between cities' resources. The second sentence starts with the city's net position is broken out into 3 categories, colon, net investments. And I was trying to just categorize where the other 2 categories are.
What page are you on?
It's on page 28 of our packet. It looks like it's page 10 of the audit report.
Well, it should be net investment in capital assets, restricted for city projects and unrestricted, but I don't, did we miss that in there?
I'm just trying to make sense of the sentence.
Oh, gosh.
It's the second sentence in that first
Yeah.
paragraph.
So the net investment in capital assets is your total capital assets. Your
Okay.
restricted is specific by like special revenue funds. So if you have a gas tax fund or something like that, there's specific restrictions on that money. And then the unrestricted is just everything else.
So the 3 categories then are net investment in capital assets, that's one.
Mhm.
And the second is,
Restricted.
okay,
And then the third is unrestricted.
got it.
Yep.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Do you know offhand, Mason, what that Oro Madre land is valued at?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
Did we have it appraised when it was?
Oh, yeah,
done?
it was,
I think
Tom, you had that. It was like 2.3 or something.
I think when it sells, they have to reappraise, right?
But the property was valued at something. And so
Yeah.
when you treat it next year, it as a capital asset increase, it will be valued at whatever the assessment was, I presume. Which was what, Tom?
I don't remember.
Was it 2.3?
Something like that.
I think it was 2.3.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? I believe we have to approve this. Is that right?
Except the report, I believe.
Yes, we have to accept it. Is there a motion to accept the 23-24 audit?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Good work.
Thank you for
guys.
your
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks, good
Thank-
job.
Thanks, David.
Mason.
Thank you.
Yoo-hoo. Now what are you going to do with all your extra time? I'm kidding, Mason.
What free time?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, budget.
Yeah, so hopefully everybody saw today. Again, apologies for getting this out late. And you guys have it at places. We put some over there too? Yeah. So again, what we tried to do was basically go through and like we discussed previously, trying to do a pretty conservative budget this year. Just feels like a lot of uncertainty in the market. And so what we highlighted were it's kind of the superset of requests, and with the understanding that, we're going to take your feedback tonight. We're going to crunch a lot of the assumptions, and, I expect we're going to have to trim some of these things to make the budget balance. But, we're going to bring back to you guys a balanced budget. But I wanted to see, and again, gave you guys a fair amount of detail. And as we kind of go through it tonight, like I said, hopefully it all makes sense, but hopefully we don't spend a lot of time talking about a $5,000 item versus, some of the other items. The biggest one, which we have a closed session tonight, is really the salary and benefit conversation. I already explained kind of marketing, we're going to hold it flat, but we may kind of switch around the mix in terms of like spending the
Just
money. Yep.
real quick. So benefits, the 86,000 increase over here is 10% over last year. That's pretty clear. But there were a couple of things just on what we got today. I wasn't really sure if you meant above previous year, which we don't have on here. So let's take, where is dispatch? Is that 175,000 more or 175,000?
So, yeah, and I can just kind of run through these real quick, but if there's a plus sign, it means more. If there's no plus sign, that's the total.
From the prior year.
If there's a plus sign, it's the
From
prior year
prior year.
plus. So 175 is the total cost. That's about a 6% increase for dispatch. See if there's anything else we can call out, and then we can just go to questions. Yeah, a couple of these, would only be done if we got a grant or some other sources of funding. We do have some parks impact fees that could potentially be used for some of the community center work. So like the painting of the auditorium. And then, the body cam system is quite old. I think that one's important to look at. We currently own the cameras and the physical storage that's, sitting over there in the building. This new one is really kind of a lease where the storage is in the cloud and we don't really own the cameras. And if during the 5 years, if something happens, they just ship us a new camera. But at the end of the 5 years, we don't own anything either.
Will that be more cost effective than the ownership that we're currently? looking at now,
I
or-
think it's a higher end system. I think the system we bought, a lot of the cameras have failed and this, whenever we need to pull things, somebody manually has to go pull it. When this is up in the cloud, they include, redaction services and things that happen automatically. So it'll save our police officers time. I'm not exactly sure, to answer the question you asked, if it's a different service. So it's probably going to cost us more over time. But, I would expect the annual fee, the 5,300 it'll probably go up a little bit in 5 years, but we would just keep paying like an annual amount.
Are there grants available for equipment like this?
I haven't seen it. I mean, specifically for the
research.
body cams.
The-
So
The 9830 is like sort of is higher because it's initial startup kind of thing.
yeah, exactly.
For new ones, we have body cams.
It's the first year cost is higher than the second year cost.
Yeah, I mean, startup for a new system.
Animal control, we had a cap. We actually haven't hit the cap. So our assumption of the budget is just keep the cap amount. We did put in 20,000 for weed abatement. As we talked before, we would eventually get that money back, but it could be quite a while.
Right.
Carson Street storm drain seems to be fairly urgent. There's concern the roadway is going to collapse.
So that's just FYI, there's no D on Carson and it's Carson Drive.
Okay.
Not Carson Street.
Thank you.
And I had a question on that one because I know that street. So what's the 75 going to do on that? Is it going to it's going to fix the storm drain and repave the road?
Yeah, Dan, you want to?
We're going to get better estimates, but that's what we're assuming would be the worst case scenario if we had to actually redo the stabilization of the slope and then put road in. There's a bunch of different ideas floating around right now, so we're not quite clear exactly. This is our best guess at the time.
Okay.
Once we get into it, it might be a lot less if we can find cheaper materials.
It seems really inexpensive to fix the storm drain and repave that whole road for $75,000 compared to the big road we did.
It's only really bad in one little section.
Oh,
so
it's not the whole
It's
road.
not the whole road. No,
Okay.
it's only like where the bend comes around.
Okay.
And so it's that kind of slope on that side.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not the whole road. It's
I got you.
just that slope stabilization.
Good. And to tie that together, then when we read on, Tom, I think that's the proposed, some of the money from Measure P would go toward this. Is that correct?
No. So
not.
what the
Okay.
committee, and again, it was here at the end of this, which was,
Yeah.
when it comes to Measure P, we're not really sure what the lag is going to be from the state. So we think it's going to be a quarter, but we haven't seen, so which means the first payment would come in July or August.
Right.
For this current fiscal year. And then the forecast there, we need to go back. I think we maybe put in a low forecast. But again, that would be throughout the year, and we wouldn't actually see the full amount until into 2027 fiscal year or 2020. So what the oversight committee talked about was not wanting to do a matching grant for just anything on the CIP list. They weren't very excited about park projects, or they really just wanted to focus on streets and storm drains, potentially energy savings projects that had a ROI.
Yeah.
So potentially some solar, but not really anything else. They would rather reserve the money and spend it the following year. So I was asking for a little bit of flexibility so that if we did see some grants, we could get some matching funds. And I think it was a good conversation. They just felt, they didn't want to do like the body cams or, like I said, some park improvement, which, the feeling was that wouldn't be as appreciated by the community as holding the money for streets.
Right. I guess the reason I said that is because in that last section, it says that staff would like to plan for about 138 in street and storm drain projects. And that includes the one we were just talking about.
Yeah, that money's the street gas tax revenue and things. So that would not touch Measure P money. It would.
Okay, so the next paragraph is just incorrect then. We're gonna scratch that.
No, so there's 138,000 in street and storm drain projects.
Right.
There's about 150,000 in street tax revenue. That's dedicated street, like gas tax revenue.
Got you. Thank you.
And then the TUT is a new.
Thank you.
Subject. Yeah.
My brain was lumping things together. My apologies. Okay.
So you lost me though. So why would, given the discussion that you had with the committee today, Carson, for instance, not be a appropriate place to spend Measure P money?
Yeah. So we're saying that we have a street enterprise fund with that basically gets state taxes, goes into that fund that can only be used for streets.
Right.
There's enough there without touching Measure P to do those projects.
Okay.
And that money's there right now.
Yeah,
Not-
yeah.
So Measure P money would be saved for the next street or road project.
I appreciate your comment that we need to really know what Measure P money is going to come in, not guess and, guess too low or guess too high. And let's just find out. Be very cautious.
So yeah, exactly. I don't want to get ahead of our skis, and we'll basically be spending it kind of a year in arrears once we start to accumulate it.
Did they give a quarterly report on the sales tax they collect for us?
Yeah, but I think that's when they send their payment as well. Like,
Okay.
and again, we just want to get some experience to see what the lag really is.
Well, in all likelihood, if we see a decline in sales tax with the economy, then Measure P may just be making up for that shortfall and get us back to our original sales tax income.
Yeah, and if that does tend to be the trend, I think that I was in Massachusetts and I was seeing how their TOT funds it. And I think that we might, if things start to decline, consider budgeting a little more for marketing and helping the business association. Because I do think there's more that could be done to bring people here to spend money.
I know you don't want to get hung up on a $5,000 or $6,000 item, but does something like the computers, do we put that out do we shop around on that and get the best? Okay.
Yeah, and it may be a little bit less, but that also includes the IT company coming and copying everything over and And,
Okay, because
so-
there are some local IT people that I know of.
Yeah.
That would, I'd be happy, I'm pretty sure would like to take a shot at it.
So at this point, what do you want us to weigh in on? A halftime
I mean, I'm happy to,
admin person for police would be something you'd want our direction on, I would assume. A
I
lot of
think-
these projects are kind of if and when something else happens until we get.
some are,
to-
not all. I think if there's anything in there that you think is terribly off base or other things you know of, again,
Well, I'm not inclined to increase staffing by a half a person at this point. I don't know if that's somewhere we want to start.
yep.
I just to kick off this whole process, I think that we all know that, the forecast for California cities is rough and it has been for decades. The costs are increasing, especially with aging infrastructure like us. There's not a lot of new revenue and, we face this every year. So we will have to significantly change things, especially if there's a recession, either by developing new revenue through growth or economic development, cutting services, or, some other mechanism. But I definitely feel like one of the most difficult things for a city of our size to maintain if the economy shrinks, or even if it doesn't, and we don't find new revenue, would be maintaining a staff of, is it 17 or 19 now? So I would not see this as a time to increase that.
I agree. If we can fill it with the officer in training, citing on the side of caution. I'm almost to the point that, we're at a freeze, in terms of staffing, to be able to allow even any discussion, as far as with the MOUs with our two bargaining units. It seems that we can't do both. We could have one, but we can't have the other. And looking at exactly at the forecast, and it makes me very uneasy in watching daily basis.
So I appreciate what you guys are saying again, and I think we brought the same position up last year. Currently we have sworn officers spending a lot of time on reports, and I think I shared with the council that particularly over the weekend, sometimes we get backed up. The current idea, like I said, is we are interviewing a potential officer in training who could start in this position until she passes the academy, and then she would fill the vacant position. That may give us some insight into like how valuable this position is or isn't. But I acknowledge what you guys are saying about the overall budget. I just think I have asked like if there are any options too with the other Jackson and Ione. I think both have administrative people in their police departments. If we could get some of their time, I mean, that's something we can explore, but that would still cost us. This would be, if we did have a non-sworn position, doing the part-time, no benefited position would be the kind of the lowest cost.
Is it
Way to do it.
worthwhile exploring a this new full-time person, that position be divided half in service and half administrative?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, today every sworn officer has to do both. So if it was a sworn officer, I don't know if they'd want to do all the record keeping for everybody in the force, right? It would be, yeah.
To me, it really makes sense to have the sworn officers also doing the record keeping. I don't know how many calls they have a day, and I'd love to look into that more, but it seems like possibly the way that we can keep doing what we're doing is that they do have enough time in the day to do that. I mean, I'm sure it's hard. I know even from what I've done, it's hard to switch gears. Like, I'm sure it's hard to be doing this and then you get called out. but it continues to be and again, I want to go on the record that I have nothing but respect for our police department. I love them. I love how safe it is here. And I want to continue to ensure that for our county, but it's just, it shows up in so many places, the money for that. And following that, I would like to ask, do you know offhand if the dispatch, tends to increase by 6% each year? Is that something that just is kind of become a standard?
It's relatively, I think, modest compared to the increase we got last year. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the difficulties for me looking at those particular police spends that we're talking about there, it's hard to know. So that's like 40-something thousand bucks just showing up here, additional from last year, without knowing what are we talking about in terms of any benefit increase or wage increase. So once again, in total, it's hard to know what we can afford.
Right.
You know, until we kind of work some of that stuff out.
Yeah, no, I realize I'm giving you guys a really incomplete picture right now, but
The number that scares the heck out of me is that $86,000 increase in benefits. I mean,
And that's just the cost of us continuing to provide what we provide today.
we're at, I mean, that's just,
Is that right?
Yep.
For the insurance that we
That-
buy
the
today.
Increase.
That's not
in-
giving them extra money or anything like that for benefits.
right.
Yeah, it's just the cost of the benefits.
Well,
So-
again, the way our benefits work, it's a cafeteria plan. So the benefit cost has gone up this amount. If we don't increase our cafeteria cap, it falls on the employees.
Exactly.
But they can't afford that kind of increase, right? So this number will be kind of probably shared.
it's a big number.
Really. It's a big number.
Yeah.
I had a question too on the grammar school air conditioning. Do you know if there are any like grants for historic buildings that might help with that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been really, for the last almost 2 years, we've been trying to find like energy grants, and we just kept running into roadblocks. Dan has found a good EC maintenance guy, so we're going to see what we can coax out of the current system. You know, the idea was, you know, if we do have people occupying the building, maybe we just cool a couple of rooms. We may even look at like a portable AC, depending. But again, a full solution for that building would be even more than this. This was a real kind of minor estimate.
And what kind of income does that bring a year at that building?
Not that much.
How much?
Do you know offhand? Yeah.
It's one of our more popular rentals, for sure. But I mean, a ballpark would be like maybe $20,000 to $30,000 a year.
I was gonna say 20.
Maybe. And then, yeah, I think 30 is like pretty optimistic. That's more like the auditorium. Auditorium makes pretty good money because the rental policy is like by day, it's not by hour. So we make a little more money on the auditorium usually.
And Claire, I know you've been involved in the grammar school. I mean, what's the philosophy? Or we just think it's important? I mean, it is important. I know it's important. It's an amazing place, but like, is it imperative to have it up to like this level that it's being cooled? Do we want to keep running it? Like, it just seems like it's costing.
Looks like it would,
Are you talking about HVAC or the building?
I'm talking about the building and then our
Oh, well, the
investment in it.
the HVAC system as it is. I mean, the building is definitely unhospitable, almost inhabitable, big chunk of the year.
And
And
then as the-
there's also, you know, it brings on electrical stuff. Our tenants in there have little tiny space heaters to not freeze to death, which breaks all the circuits and then all the power goes out and
so we brought in 17,000 this last year in revenue.
Uh-huh.
And then as a collective, is that something we're wanting to invest in and?
Well, that's the good question, Susan. I mean, that's, we've got this building up there. It's really in bad shape. It needs a lot of help. It's being proposed now for, what is it, 40,000 to maybe get a fix in there. Is that how much it is? But, it's a good question. Or do we set that thing aside for a while and wait till we can afford it?
Claire, isn't there possibly a more pressing issue with a structural issue? About a beam in the,
No,
in the-
I think that's all worked out and,
That-
the foundation will continue to restore the school and, they've put 250,000, I think, into it already and, will continue to, but I think the HVAC after, many years, that's not a historical preservation. That's kind of like a tenant improvement, it's like the landlord telling you to re-roof your house. Structurally, there are issues, but that's mostly the exterior and the fascia and everything. And that's what the foundations still are focusing fundraising on right now. But yeah, I think this is like mini splits. Right, Tom? Like a couple of,
Yeah.
they've kicked around a million ideas. This is the low cost
Yeah.
option,
And again,
which would make it potentially so people would rent it. No one wants to be in there about 6 months of the year.
but we'd have to also figure out how to do it with the least historic impact as possible.
Right. Yeah. And the foundation's moving out of the museum room upstairs. So I think if it's comfortable in there, it would be, we'd be able to rent it more with the whole upstairs. So you can have a whole reception or, there's a lot of potential. We've never marketed it because it sucks to be in there 6 months out of the year.
Well, and also even my 11-year-old was like, well, why would you want to have a wedding and you have to like park at the school? I mean, I think there are limitations to the kind of events that it might draw. I mean, it could be, it's just a special place. And then lastly, is it the building insulated?
Yeah, it's brick, so. Yeah.
No would be the answer. It's brick.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So I had a question on the, so staff would like to plan for 138,000 about in street and storm drain projects for 25-26. Since there's about 150,000 in street tax revenue coming in. So do we have any carryover besides that 150,000? And what would the timing be on that 150,000?
I don't think there's much carryover from the street projects we did. And
I wouldn't imagine it.
Yep.
And does that include the 138,000? Does that include the projects detailed in under street funds, the Carson Drive, David Drive? Okay. Because that comes up to about 110,000. So,
no,
but
yeah, it's close.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay. So that does include the items that were listed under street funds.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if this would be helpful, but if you, it's very difficult to do this without a whole picture. But if you skip the first 3 staffing things, not skip, obviously, we're going to deal with a lot of that in closed session. Marketing, no change. But then if you went through some of those items and indicated, I mean, I could give my take of what I think would be, staff has said over a few times, and I agree, we need to not get ahead of our skis in spending this year. I mean, we have more budget adjustments as money comes in and we see what's actually going to happen and what we could do. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk and you guys tell me if I'm on the wrong track. I would think that the following items on this list would be a wait and see where we're at, or if we can find money somewhere sort of thing, which is Bryson Park. We already know what money we'd be waiting for. Sutter Hill walking trail to town. That would be a wait and see what we can come up with or what money comes in. Grammar School AC, Monteverdi Wall, Paint City Hall Auditorium, those are all wait and sees. You get into the police department, the wait and see shifts in my mind a little bit. I want a lot more answers on a couple of scales with that. The body cam, I mean, certainly I'd want to know the last time we bought them and the status of them and, you know, how much we need them for one person at a time. I don't think we know enough about these other items to really give input there. Dispatch is what it is. Animal control is what it is. Certainly the computers make sense to me. Weed abatement, we've all given that direction, and that's going to be kind of a revolving fund, if I understand it correctly, that'll get replenished, and then we'll keep doing that. You know, the streets we talked about and you have covered. Wastewater, we had that kind of figured into the budget. So I think we're, in terms of what you're looking from us on this list, I think it's really only a few things that I went out ahead and flagged what I think are wait and see what happens. I don't know if that's helpful, if you'd like us all to do that, or
I'd like to have obviously some more information, but I am concerned about the increases, especially when we don't, you know, really have the full picture. And I share the same sentiment with Jim. I've got a big circle around the benefits, and the other scary is the salary to be determined. So it's just hard to say when we look at from the audit, the percentage, kind of the general, and these are general statements, you know, we have some big public work expenses, we have big salary bills, expenses, and you know, that just comes with the game. My concern is that there was a drop in community projects and community outlay. So in looking at these, it's safety. Audit. Yeah. Anyway, so.
to that point, Julia, and
I had.
maybe Mason, you can correct, or Tom, if we're wrong, but I think she's looking at page 8 on the audit, where the
Yes.
revenues and expenditures,
Exactly.
and the auditing people kind of have their own cups that they fit everything into. And we ask about this every year. It doesn't really match up on us. I remember the first year I read cultural and recreational. Ooh, we have that, you know, but it doesn't actually align with our budget categories. It's kind of
No, I think that's
their lingo.
That's why I was saying, just in general, you know, our public works, rightfully so, went up a lot because we have big wastewater bills. So that's a given. But when it comes to looking at a new budget and where we might be able to focus, given that we've given up in the past because we've had to do these other repairs, I think it comes to safety first. And obviously we have to be able to, you know, consider what the salary and benefits are going to look like. So I don't have a lot of solid opinion beyond that, unfortunately. But I shared the sentiment with Mayor Gunselman on the body cam system to be able to review what we have now versus what $10,000 would give us.
Plus 5,000 a year.
Yeah.
I feel like on the police department, though, we should be very mindful of how much it costs and that it keeps cropping up and it's a huge part of our budget. I think that if we're going to have a police department, it's very imperative that we give them every tool and have every device as modern as possible, because since we are deciding to continue to shoulder this tremendous responsibility to keep the community safe, I think that we need to make sure we've given them every tools, and then we're monitoring that in the very best way that we can, because God forbid something does happen and we have old equipment, if it's failing, I mean, we should get reports on whether or not that the body cams are possibly they are sufficient, but if they're, I think at this point in time, if we're not storing our records in the cloud, that's a little bit dated, and I just don't think there's any room to play around. And we've got to have them have the best training. We should have the best safety equipment. We can't have failing tasers because things go wrong at exactly the time that you need them. They should have guns that are working because, you know, our kids are in these schools. Like if we are gonna have a police department, we can't scrimp on it, like,
Yeah.
in my mind.
I think, again, the body cams are good for the police officers. It's good for the city. So, again, I think that's one we should really seriously look at. Again, I've been told that this is a very old system. A lot of it's failing. So,
I feel like we bought the body cams in my tenure, though. Do you remember that?
yeah, I think we
Jim?
bought like a system off of Amazon. It's fairly low end, and
I remember it being a budget item a few years ago to get them, to begin having body cams.
And we're storing the data.
yeah,
I don't remember clear, but to that point, whether it was 3 years ago or 2 years ago, if they're failing, we've got to do something about it. And does it affect our insurance?
I don't think we've asked
Possibly.
the insurer what if
I'm
we did
just,
the body
I'm just
cam.
wondering,
Yeah.
there might be a cost savings or a cost increase that would affect us if our body cameras aren't functioning.
It certainly would affect us if something happened and they failed and we didn't
Yeah.
have the records we
Right.
needed.
After the fact.
Yeah.
But I
But
mean,
you would think there might be
before the fact, it might have affect your insurance premium.
I just know from the restaurant business, everything always breaks on Saturday night, and I would hope that we would just know that with regards to the police and give them every tool that they need.
What do you want to get out of this, Tom?
I think that the run through you just went was really helpful. And again, I just wanted to point out, I think the body cams are one that's less optional, but I think
Right.
the other ones you highlighted, that
Well,
makes sense.
I know the last couple conversations I've had with Chief O'Connell about some things that, you know, weren't being addressed or patrolled, he'd brought up other cameras, like surveillance cameras around town as being, you know, a way to help our coverage at a, you know, budget price. And that might be something that would be more warranted than some of these things, but
No, I don't
from
think
this
so.
information, I really don't know that.
Yeah, I think surveillance cameras are kind of a luxury that would supplement that stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, if the department is telling Tom that the things aren't functioning, then we should replace them. I mean, I don't think.
I think the question about like kind of purchase versus lease, we can go back, get more
Yeah,
detail.
you can do
straight up.
a CBA, you know, do a cost benefit on those two avenues and see which one makes the most sense. But if they're not working properly, we do have a police department, so what Susan's saying makes sense to me. You know, that we've got those guys today, so let's make sure they have equipment that works.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
You're sticking your neck out if the body cams aren't going to work.
I agree.
So, but I agree that let's look at all the options.
right, for how to obtain.
Leasing
Yeah.
always scares me, whether it's a car or solar panels on your roof, whatever it might be. I just have I usually think that owning is better, but I don't know that much about body cams.
Yeah.
Could be the kind of thing they break and then they're really not fixable. So if they will replace them, we might, but that's the details y'all can work.
Depends on
with.
how much if replacement cost is reasonable, it breaks, you buy a new one.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, simple cost benefit analysis will give us the score on that thing. And then I would agree with Claire about most of her comments there, Tom, and also say that you also said the same thing in this thing in many cases. You're not saying we're going to go spend this money. You're saying, well, if we get this and if we get that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And that's
Again,
kind of
I
where,
just wanted you guys to kind of
Yeah.
weigh in on some trade-offs
Yeah.
so we get a sense of
yeah,
where you guys are. We can go back and tweak it. So
yeah. Yeah, and this next piece of work we do with the negotiations and stuff is going to really be helpful and essential in this whole discussion.
Anything else? Mason, do you need anything from us?
Could you spare me a few hours? I need,
No, but
I need
you know what,
time.
would make,
It's hard
well,
to come by.
I'm gonna ask you for this anyways, so I don't know if anybody else wants it. But you've seen, I've lent you my budget file from previous years. It's like this now and it's all paper.
Oh yeah.
If you sent us just the link to, the last go round of this, our last approved budget, so we can look at things and it can kind of stimulate our thought process. I think that would be helpful.
You just want the approved version from last year?
Yeah, I guess, we go back to, I just go back through old
Yeah.
meeting agendas, but it would be nice to just see the actual living document.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can do some homework, Tom, and be more prepared when we get further down the line.
And I don't mean to speak for everybody, but I'm gonna, and you guys can just be mad at me, but I know you guys are under the gun in so many things. So if you need us at a different time for workshopping some of this, or, some special meeting, tell us. And
yeah, we made
I think in the past we had budget workshop.
Yeah.
Specifically, and that's all that we did was hash this out.
I think that was right before my time, but I do remember you guys talking about having those workshops, and they were very productive.
Yes.
I think it's not so much more meetings during the week, but there's 5 Mondays in June. So I don't know if you guys are around on June 30th, if we needed to have a third council meeting.
enough of us will be here.
I should be here.
I'm going on a trip, but I'm gonna have to double check my dates.
Or if you want us individually,
To respond.
to respond to some of this, or just let us know. We'll be there for you guys. I know you got a
Yeah,
lot on
again,
your
I
plate.
think it's really about the public meetings and having a draft, and we're gonna shoot for 2 weeks from now. But if we needed another meeting after that,
I will not be here for that meeting.
the 16th,
Yeah. Family matter came up back east. I'll be going back.
okay.
Okay, anything else? All right, mayor and council member reports. Anybody?
Just go ahead.
Just quickly, Tom, that RTMF annual meeting is next week. I'm attending by Zoom because I'm in Los Angeles. And so I just wanted to remind you of that in case you and or Dan wanted to be there in the flesh.
Right.
Okay, we're going to tee that up this Thursday at the ACTC meeting and see what kind of, guidance. I think what he's asking for is he's asking for the board to move to assign the RTMF annual meeting that issue to review all the documentation that you sent and that kind of thing. But I will ask for an
Yep.
update to
When-
learn.
When is the meeting again? The RTMF? Thought I had it in my calendar, but I'm not seeing it.
It looks like it is June 9th, 11 a.m.
Monday?
Yeah. Monday.
Okay.
But I'm going to double check that, Tom, when I get home, because this thing's acting a little funny.
Susan?
Yes, I just want to thank the city staff, Holly especially, for helping the Italian Society all through the permit process for a special event, the parade. Also, the police department and their volunteers that work on a Sunday to make the parade possible. And I just want to make sure that I thank them for all the work and effort that they put into it. And I think it was a success. We're trying to build a parade back up. We got the numbers of entrants in the mid 50s up to 70 this year. And we'll work between now and next June to get even more and some other exciting entries. So anyways, that's all I wanted to report.
Great job, Jim. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, Dan and Tom are meeting with Lauren and Alexis and I from the Duck Race / Foundation. And Julia, are you going to be there? And Amy and Tracy from Accra. The Duck Race had, of the money the Duck Race raised, we plan to spend about 10 grand of it on the pool. So we're going to talk to these guys about what improvements we can spend it on. And then do some, hopefully have some money for some other projects in town. And then the foundation, not with its Duck Race funds, actually was able to contribute pretty substantial amount of money to the high school gym floor being refurbished. I think it'll get done next week. So that was just the basketball coach pulled that together with the district. My brother's construction company matched the district's contribution, and foundation put in 8,000, a couple of families put in a few thousand, and I might be missing something, but it pays for the entirety of the new floor that hasn't been done since 1954.
Wow. That doesn't seem possible.
Maybe 64.
Yeah, that sounds, because
It's older than me. Yeah, yeah.
the old gymnasium burned down in 64.
Yeah.
So it
12 years older than me. That's right. So 64.
ancient.
Yes.
Still. And it had the dead spots in it.
And one of the dead spots is on the free throw line.
Yeah, that was there.
A lot of dead
when I
spots.
graduated in 75.
City attorney's report. You've been really quiet. Give us a report.
Yeah, I have been very quiet. So there's nothing specific to report. We've been working with the city manager, Tom, in the collective bargaining for a couple of rounds now, and you'll get a separate update for that. We meet again on Wednesday, so we're looking forward to discussing those topics with you and getting some clarification on our direction.
Great.
Yep,
Future
thank you.
agenda items? Hearing none. Okay. There was one piece of correspondence. We went over that, the letter from the county to the water board. So we're going to adjourn out of our open session into closed session. Thank you, Mia.
All right, now I'll need to connect on a different link.
Yes.
So I'm gonna.
and, we'll probably take